Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Going Virtual Scouting meeting. So we know COVID is still very present in our world today, and so for my part, we felt like we needed to provide some additional support and guidance to units, particularly if units haven't gone virtual yet or haven't ever been struggling with that. So for those that don't know, my name is Eric Kari. I'm the district director in the Twin Valley Council. Also with me helping tonight is Liz Paul and Alex Osterberg. Liz is our resident guru with some of this technology, so she's going to be running the PowerPoint, and we'll kind of trade off on some of this stuff. And so I'll get started. If you want to go to the next slide, please, Liz.
It works now. There we go.
So I'm going to talk mostly about the technology, what options there are. For those that, maybe haven't had as much experience with this, these are kind of, some of these I've worked with very extensively, others I just have done research on. So really the four biggest players that I see that have free versions, there are paid versions of some of them and just fully paid programs. Zoom, Google Meet, Facebook Messenger, and Skype. Zoom has both a free and paid option. Google Meet has a free and pay option. The other two are just free. The other one is a GoToMeeting, which is very similar to Zoom. It's got probably a lot more buzzes and whistles, but it's strictly a paid program. Other things you could possibly use, but I guess I don't kind of recommend them, but is FaceTime, which is an Apple-based product, and Duo, which is an Android, though there is an Apple version that's compatible. But again, I don't suggest those. The challenge is there's no screen share or chat. But anyway, Zoom, Google Meet, Facebook, and Skype are the ones that I suggest. Next slide. For some reason, Liz, my computer decided it was going to crash on me. So can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my computer, like I said, just crashed on me. So I'll keep talking while I try to get this up on my phone. So the next one is talking about Zoom. Zoom is one that we're on this evening. I've used most extensively. As I mentioned, it's got a free and paid version, and what you see on your screen is kind of some of the key features of each of these products. For the most part, they're very similar in terms of services they provide, but there are some key differences. With Zoom, one of the key differences is there is a breakout option. So if you want to do breakouts, like if you have a PAC meeting and you want to break out by 10, or if you've got some activities you want to do and you just want to break out a little bit, you can certainly do that with those. Probably the biggest limitation with Zoom and the free version is the fact that it's a 40-minute limit, though we have found that at times Zoom doesn't enforce that kind of thing. So just be aware that if that is the case, once you reach your 40 minutes and then it kicks you off, you just need to have everybody click the link that they've been sent, and then they can log back in. And all of the programs are very similar in terms of the fact they've got screen sharing, that they've got the ability to show videos. So there's lots of things you can do to make these work regardless of your expertise. There's also a chat function in this that some of the other programs don't have. And I'm going to rely on Alex and Liz since my computer's restarting and I can't see anything. If I'm missing something, please jump in and hit on what I'm missing. And I think that's the key things. Again, it's definitely fully featured, so there's lots of things you can do with it. So next slide. And when Liz gets to that slide, if she's not there already.
You're there.
Okay, which one are we on now? I forget.
Google Meet.
Google Meet. So Google Meet, there's also a free and paid version. It's very similar if your kids are used to using Google Classroom, except that Google Classroom is specifically a school-based only product, where this is anybody can utilize it. You can't use Google Classroom, generally speaking, for these kinds of scouting activities. So Google Meet basically is the same functionality. Not a lot of buzzes and whistles. Yep, go ahead.
Google Classroom you can use without being a school-based function. that's what we use for
Oh.
our scouts.
Okay.
They just have to,
Okay.
they can't use their school Gmail. They have to have a totally different one.
Hey, that's great to know. We didn't know that when we talked on Sunday, so that's great. So yes, so you can use Google Classroom or Google Meet. I don't have access to Google Classroom, so I don't know how. I've heard it's very similar to Google Meet. So if Ashley or somebody on the line knows more about that, you can jump in. Limited to 100 people. Again, no sign up required. You just send everybody a link. It's free, pretty basic. Next slide. Next one is Facebook Messenger Rooms. The limitations to this one as compared to the others, there's no chat function, so you can't chat with it. You are also limited to 50 people. One nice thing about this and all of them is there's no sign up required. So you don't have to have a Facebook page or anything, or a Facebook account even, to use Messenger Room. So again, you can connect up by video. You can share a link to get people on. There's no time limit. And again, all these programs you can use on a smartphone or a computer. So you're not limited just to having to have a computer. So next slide. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is Skype. It's probably, out of all four, has been around the longest, but it was strictly started as a phone calling type program in the beginning, and they branched out into video conferencing. Again, you can do very similar things to the others. No sign up required. Again, you're limited to 100 people. Share a link to connect. So pretty straightforward there in terms of the technology. So pretty simple. Next slide. So these are my personal recommendations. You have to make it work what's for you. So if you want a fully functional program where you've got lots of buzzes and whistles, things you can do, breakout rooms, chat, screen share, the ability to record. Well, actually, I take that back. You can't record scouting meetings. I apologize. You can't record anything with youth. But there's a lot of things you can do with Zoom. And again, it's fully functional. But if you just want a program where it's just, hey, I just want to get up and running. I just want to get people online. I don't need a bunch of other things to worry about. Then I would focus on Google Meet or Classroom, Facebook Messenger Rooms, or Skype, because again, it just helps you just get online pretty quickly and not have to worry about, feeling like you have to have a PhD to navigate it. So, and ultimately, my recommendation is consider what your kids use for school. So, in like the case of Ashley with Pac 11, they use Google Classroom, so that's what they use for school. So they use that for their meetings. It makes it much easier when you use what kids are already used to using, and then you don't have to worry about having a big learning curve, and oftentimes the kids are teaching the parents. So next slide. As far as storage solutions, so in some cases you need places to put things that everybody can access. Maybe it's a coloring sheet they need to download. Maybe it's instructions for something. There's certainly a ton of solutions out there for that. Probably the three most popular ones would be a Google Drive, where it's just free and shareable. You have to have a Gmail account to utilize it, but you can share with anybody, even if they don't have a Google account. Dropbox, again, free and shareable. You have to sign up for an account, but again, you can share that. And then if your pack has a unit has a Facebook group, you can also store files within a Facebook group. A public page doesn't allow you to do that. A Facebook group, though, you can do that. So again, if you need a storage solution for things, I'd say those three, for the most part, will meet everybody's needs in one way or another. Next slide. And then this is some links. We'll send these out, but here's a link to how to get to all of these. So that way, if you want to check them out, get started with them, like I said, they're pretty straightforward once you get there. Again, particularly Google Meet, Messenger Rooms, and Skype, they've got it pretty, very, very basic for you if you just want to just get online and start going. So next slide. And I'll turn it over to Alex.
All right, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's actually been put out by the organization. And the first one that I want to mention is the Den Leader Experience, which is actually part of Scoutbook. So if your pack is already using Scoutbook, it's the same login. If you have a my.scouting account, then you have an account here. It's the same login for that too. And then based on your position, it'll change what you see. So the biggest thing that we have there is essentially the Den Leader guides for free online. So there's the guides, and then there's also, based on each level, it'll actually make the Den meeting plans for you. So like you see here, it gives you the plan for each adventure, for each den, before, during, and after. So like the materials that you need that you would have to, communicate with a family to get beforehand, it'll list that for you. All of the steps of the meeting, from the flag ceremony to completing the adventure, are in there for you. Like what you see here, that's not something that I typed into the calendar. That already exists and is done. I got these through the Sandbox version of the website, which essentially lets you play around without having an account, but everyone's will look a little bit different based on, your pack, of course. And then the other thing is that this also connects to the parents app. So the Scouting app, the parents can also see from their end. And that's part of what I wanted to bring it up for virtual meetings, is because it makes it a lot easier to track what the kids are doing at home. So like if you are giving homework, or if you've got kids in the pack that are working on advancement at home, the parents are able to go in and mark what is done, and then it'll show up for the Den Leader in Den Leader Experience and Scoutbook. It essentially is a more user-friendly dashboard for your Scoutbook and your my.scouting accounts. And I also wanted to mention that right now, because of COVID quarantine, parents can approve the activities that are done by the Cub Scouts at every level. So before, parents could approve like adventure completion for their Cub Scouts until they were Webelos and AOL. Now parents can sign off on Webelo and Arrow of Light adventure requirements also. So everybody in your pack can be doing stuff at home. The parents can sign off on it on their worksheet or in their Scouting app, whatever you guys use in that counts. You can go to the next slide. All right, so this shows what you'll see as if you're a Den Leader, Cub Master, any registered member of the pack. You'll be able to see a roster. It'll show all of the kids in it, and then this is what it'll look like. So it'll show you everything that they've completed, the adventures that they've completed, what they've done, and then the parents see the same thing. Next slide. And then one of the other things that that's cool that they put out from National are these adventure videos. So in the Den Leader Experience and in your Den Leader guides and everything, the plans, of course, are not optimized for virtual meetings. They haven't been, they're written assuming that you're doing an in-person meeting. And it can be a little tricky to figure out which ones translate virtually, but the National BSA organization put out a adventure videos for every den, every level. There are several different adventures to choose from. And right here at the bottom, I just showed an example of a few that they've got for the tiger dens. And these are videos made by other people in Scouting, other councils, people at National, and it is the den meeting. I mean, it is the adventure presented and done in a video for you. So those are a great way to kind of supplement homework or share with your families when they're working on it home, or you can use them as part of your virtual den meetings too also. And there's more kind of in-depth information about that and how to use them in a webinar that National already put out and Liz was actually a part of. And you can find that on Vimeo, Vimeo/the BSA. Vimeo, if you don't know, is essentially the same thing as YouTube. It's a video sharing website, and the BSA has a page on there. And if you go there, you will see this same thumbnail. It says Virtual Adventures Webinar, and that will kind of go into just more detail about all that. Yeah, and then the biggest thing, and the biggest reason we wanted to do this and that I wanted to talk about is essentially that you don't have to, completely reinvent the wheel. You don't have to have a hour-long meeting of, completely original content. Luckily, a lot of the work has kind of been done for us, and there are a lot of resources out there. You can use Boys Life, Boy Scouts of America, of course, and other councils all have YouTube channels where they post adventures, virtual meetings, stuff like that. I just showed one example here of a virtual den meeting that is on there in full. And I mean, you can use those kinds of things for inspiration. You can use those kind of informational videos, the adventure videos and that kind of stuff as part of your meeting. You don't feel like you have to create all of this on your own, or like we have to do new ones for every single pack. And kind of like Eric mentioned this, but I just wanted to also mention that having a parent Facebook group or something similar is a good way to share some of these things. I know some of our packs have been doing that, posting on the parent group what adventure they're working on, or what video they're going to watch at home before the meeting, or whatever. And that's just a good way to be able to do that. And then the other thing is, with Cub Scouts especially, the standard for completing things is do your best. And right now that's going to be a little, that's going to mean making some changes to how all of our adventures are done. And some of them that require like visiting a museum or something like that, those trips can be a virtual tour. That can be part of your meeting or part of what you're doing at home. And we've compiled a big long list of some of those that I'll send out. The example I have here is that you can virtually tour the Air Force Museum, and something like that is a good thing to share, or a good thing to do as part of a meeting that would count. I mean, you can also have, your guest speakers, they don't have to be local. You can have someone, one of the silver lining to having to do things virtually is that you can have a special program or a guest speaker, and that person doesn't have to be local or actually come here to the meeting. You can have someone from, say, the fire department talk to the kids, and then you can do a virtual tour of the fire department, and you can do those sorts of things, both to count as adventures, but also just for fun. That's pretty much what I had for you guys for virtual resources specifically. So if there's no specific questions on that, I'll turn it over to Liz.
All right. Well, I have a couple topics to talk about. The first is just a reminder of our BSA policies and how they relate to online meetings. The bottom line is that whether we are in person or virtual, all BSA guidelines for youth protection must be followed. We do have some additional ones when it comes to digital and online protections. And you can read about them. I included the links there, but the key takeaways that you guys need to remember, first and foremost, is we always need to have 2 deep leadership in every meeting with Scouts, and that includes online meetings. And so that is true for whether it is a den meeting, a pack meeting, or any kind of meeting we might be running. Likewise, it doesn't happen very often in Cub Scouts, but just in general, no direct leader to Scout online communication is allowed without copying a parent or other leaders. We don't want the one-on-one communication. So if you are talking in chat online, make sure it is all a public chat. We don't want any private chats. Everything needs to be front and center and on the up and up. Likewise, we need to safeguard personal information, so we don't want to put any of our scouts information out there online, and we don't want to collect any extra information, particularly from scouts under the age of 13, so Cub Scouts. So be mindful. Eric already mentioned we don't record meetings where scouts are present, online meetings. So while we are recording this, for example, we would not record this if it were a webinar for scouts or if it were a merit badge that we were providing for scouting. So we do not record meetings with scouts. So if you are having a den meeting and someone's not able to attend, unfortunately, we cannot record that for them to see later. You can record it yourself and share it with them, but you cannot record the portions with the other scouts.
The scouts can record themselves, though. You could
That's true.
ask the families to like submit a video of something they've done. You just can't record it.
Yes. And that's the big thing is parents may choose to submit a recording of their scouts. Scouts may choose to record themselves. You may choose to do like a movie making kind of thing, and all of those things. But in terms of the actual you recording other scouts, not allowed. So beyond the safe scouting rules, I am going to talk about kind of the building blocks about what makes a good virtual meeting. And it's no surprise really that it is similar to what makes a good in-person meeting. And it does take a little bit of forethought and a little bit of planning, but with those prep and some thought into it, you can have a really good virtual meeting. So I kind of narrowed it down to 4 main topics: simplicity, routine, interaction, and fun. And if you can get these 4 things going, you're going to have a really good virtual experience for your scouts. The first is simplicity. I really want to encourage you to not try to do too much right now. When you are having a virtual meeting, think small, think simple. Only pick 1 or 2 tasks or topics and arrange all activities that you're going to do around that task or topic. It might mean that we stretch our adventures out a little longer than we normally would, but that's okay. And frankly, we would rather have them engage for a shorter period of time and have a more positive experience than, you know, cram everything in and have them come away feeling like it was just a matter of, you know, checking all of the boxes. Think about, you know, if there are supplies that you're going to need for whatever lesson or activities you're going to do, and please communicate those to your families prior to your meeting. So in whatever email or text or however you're communicating to your families, let them know. And, you know, it's nice, although we don't love that we're home for distance learning right now, a lot of families do have paper, markers, scissors, glue, those kind of things that they would have at school are at home right now. What? So you can ask them to use those for scout events. Finally, I really do encourage short and sweet meetings. 30 minutes for Lions and Tigers is really kind of the sweet spot for meeting length for that age group. And I would really say no more than 45 for the older age Cub Scouts as well. Any longer than that, It gets hard to focus. Even the fun activities get hard because it's just hard to sit and listen at a screen that long. Routine is another important thing, and it's going to be your best friend when it comes to virtual meetings. Find out what works for your den or your pack and stick with it. Keep it as similar as you can to what you do when you're in person. So still start with the pledge, start with your Scout Oath and Law. Consider finding a virtual flag ceremony video as a way to help enhance the opening, for example. I know there are some out there on YouTube. I've seen ones done in Minecraft. There are really cool ones. You could come up with a different one every time, but you'd still have that same routine. And also plan for checking in with the Scouts and seeing how everyone is doing. Build in that time into the routine so that there is this sense of connection for all of your Scouts. Obviously, interaction is going to be critical here. One, it's never fun to lead a meeting and have people just staring at you. But two, it's always more fun if you are engaged yourself. So when the Scouts engage, they're going to have more fun. So couple tips to always make sure to do. Call on Scouts by name to answer their questions, and make sure you're calling on all the Scouts. Don't always go by who's raising their hands, because you'll have one or two who will always raise their hand and some who won't. Go around the room, popcorn, make sure you ask everybody the answer to the question of the day or whatever it is. These are tips and tricks that teachers use all the time to make sure that everyone engages. And it's an important tool to ensure that everyone stays a part of the group. Ask lots of questions because that's going to be that interactive piece that you're missing when you're in person. If you're doing a craft or an activity, have your Scouts show their camera or show their work to the camera. They love to show things off. Even if you're not doing a craft, have a, hey, everyone go and show off your pet or your favorite toy, or what did you do in school? Like, kids will show off anything. I trust me on this one. They will. My cats have been seen in more Zoom meetings, I think, than anyone needs to see my cats, because my daughter has decided they need to be seen. So kids will show things off. So use that to your advantage. Also consider games that work well, that will engage all Scouts. So I have a couple that I really like to pull out that I can tailor to whatever topic I'm using. So we have the ABC game, which is you pick a category. So if my category were food, the first person would say food that started with A, apple. The second one would say something that started with B, banana. Now, the nice thing about this game is you're working together. You go around the room, everyone gets a turn to play. Even the lions are learning the alphabet and learning what words start with what letters. And it's a chance for us all to work together, because if someone gets stuck, we can all work together and think of a new answer. The way I tie this in is I tend to pick categories that match what we're going to be talking about. So for lions and tigers, where we're talking about, you know, the animal kingdom, because we're going to be talking about the jungle and how the animal kingdom, you know, works together, and how we all work together as citizens. And, you know, in that adventure, I might pick animals, so we can make that leap in that same way. If we're talking about tiger bites, I might pick the food one so we can talk about healthy foods then. If we're talking about how plants grow or things outside, I might pick plants. So, you know, you can pick different things. I'm thinking of a character is just a fun game. You can have someone think of a character, and generally the first question is, well, is it from a TV show? Is it from a movie? Is it from a video game? You know, and it's answering yes or no questions. Likewise, having a scavenger hunt is always fun. Go find something blue, go find a coin, go find something alive, go find whatever. So those are some options of games that get kids thinking and get kids moving that you can tailor to kind of whatever it is you're doing. And finally, don't forget to have fun. Really, it doesn't matter what adventure you're doing, which one you're picking. It wouldn't matter if you didn't do any advancements in the next month. I think it's still important that you're meeting, that you're having the scouts see each other, gather together, having social time together, and knowing that there are people beyond their family who are caring for them and engaging with them. So I think that's really what I encourage you to do. Be out there, be creative, try new things, have some fun with it, and your scouts are going to have a great time with it. That's kind of the end of my piece. I think at this point we are opening it up to questions for any of us, Eric or Alex or myself. So if anyone has questions, feel free to unmute yourself or ask them in the chat, either way.
Or if you have a comment or a thought, you know, maybe you've had some success, certainly share that as well. So
so one thing we did down here in Redwood, we did it over Thanksgiving, the week of, we found an online virtual bingo that you're able to kind of customize to whatever you wanted it to do. And the kids actually really loved doing that. They had a blast with it. But then one question I do have, you know, looking over some of these adventures is, you know, there are some that are going to absolutely require hands-on. How or what is the suggestion on approaching those as we get later and later into the year where we're potentially running out of time for some of these?
So Jeremy, what I encourage you to do is think about adventures in chunks, first of all, and do what pieces can be done first. But I'd also think about having what it would take to put kits together for your den.
Okay.
So I've done this, huh?
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, I've done this for a couple of our den meetings where, say, I want to do a very specific one. So my Lions last spring, we were done with most everything, but we still wanted to meet. And we did the growing adventure. So I got a pot and some seeds, and I ended up delivering it to my Lions' homes. And I did it in a socially distanced way. I didn't, you know, stay. We didn't have a meeting in person, but then we gathered together and we did the planting together on Zoom. And we talked about it and we watched a video and we did the rest of the adventure that way. So if there's pieces that could be done on Zoom, if they have the right materials, think about what it would take to get them those materials. Whether it would be, hey, we've got some stuff for pickup, come get it sometime this week from this location, or, you know, we're gonna mail it out to you, or I'm going to drop it off, or whatever. Otherwise, too, this is the piece where families can do things on their own, too. So, you know, if it's Webelos need to go on a 3-mile hike, and we don't know if we're going to be able to do that all together yet. Maybe we ask parents to do that with them and to send us a picture, and then we talk about it at the next virtual meeting. But we can still talk about the 6 essentials and the things ahead of time at the virtual meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the one that's really sticking out in my mind is, I believe it's bear claws with like the knife safety, axe safety, things like that.
And I would put that one off as much as you can.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a couple, particularly in that barrier, that are very hands-on. Probably Blue and the bear claws are the 2 biggest ones there. But again, I think those could be done virtually if we were very transparent with parents about here's what's in the kit that we're dropping off,
Mhm.
why we need you to be online with them, and what we're going to be doing. It would take more preparation, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is, we're in December. December turns into February. February turns into April, and holy crap, we're at the end of the school year and we still can't meet. I'm thinking worst case scenario, specifically, and it's like, then at what point do we as leaders maybe start hitting the panic button a little bit, and what do we do at that point? I mean, I know I'm talking absolute worst case scenario months out, but we were supposed to be done with this whole fiasco months ago too. So it's it's just one of those things where sometimes I overplan, but I would rather overplan than be left without one.
Jeremy, I'd say that's, I was gonna say, I think that's a good activity. I think kids really look forward to doing that. I agree with Liz that if it can be done safely, do it virtually, but that may be one that also, and there may be other adventures where certain requirements, just from a safety standpoint, might not be quite as safe to do it remotely without like physically being together. So that might be something to push off till April or May, when it's, at the very least, when it's nicer outside. So assuming things don't just suddenly turn for the worst and we go backwards, you could meet in person outside, socially distance, and do those kinds of things in that manner. But if it's something kids just really want to do now, again, I agree with Liz, be very careful and make sure that a parent is present. But again, that may be something some parents just don't feel comfortable having a leader do on or a parent would feel comfortable teaching their own child, because essentially that's what they'd be doing, because they'd be working with their own child, teaching them, and you can only show them so much. So,
right.
But I like to listen, I do what you can now. And then those things you just can't do. Hey, as soon as we get back together, we're going to do this. I mean, technically you could meet. I mean, even though we as a council are saying we're encouraging you to still do virtually, the state is saying, hey, as long as you have groups of smaller than 15, you're okay. The challenge is finding even a place to do it at this point. So again, that might be a, April or May timeframe. And if push comes to shove and it's really something everybody wants to do and you just can't do it except virtually, then do it virtually in April or May.
All right, sounds good.
I have a question kind of spinning off of that. So our den essentially is a mixed level den because of our numbers. So if I have great parent involvement, which I do, can my tiger, if his parent is there, do our Baloo the Builder activity if there's tons of parent involvement? Is that acceptable, or is that something I would definitely have to meet with the bears separately?
I can't remember. Are you talking about, is there a pocket knife? Is that the one that we're talking about? That's pocket knife?
Nope. This
No, that's
is the
the
one
building
that
one. That's
the
like
building, like hammers and
birdhouses
nails.
there.
And,
Oh, yeah. I don't see why not. I don't think there's anything restricting that. It's just, I definitely would have a parent there. I mean, I would have a parent no matter what. I mean, I've worked with third graders on this anyway, and they still scare the crap out of me, and I think they're going to smash my fingers. So I would make sure no matter what, a parent is there to help those kids,
Okay.
and especially
So,
those younger kid levels. So
Ashley, the only one they couldn't is the pocket knife one.
Okay, and I didn't plan on broaching that one, but I thought maybe the Baloo the Builder I essentially have a string art craft that they'll work on. And I thought with parent involvement it would be okay, but I thought I better double check.
sure. Other questions people have, or ideas, or concerns, or I know Ashley. I'm going to pick on Ashley a little bit. Ashley, can you share with everybody? I know you guys have been doing a very successful job with your virtual meetings. Can you talk about some of the Facebook resources you guys have used, or you've used, I guess, just kind of share people with what you've been able to do?
Yeah, so what kind of started me on getting some virtual stuff going, I joined a few Cub Scout Facebook groups. One of them is called Cub Scout Volunteers. There's one called Scout Book Tips, Tricks, and Help. And then there's one called Cub Scouts Leaders Chat USA. The main one, I get most of my information from people all over the United States, is that Cub Scout Volunteers one. I think it definitely has just helped. I've gotten lots of different ideas. Our last meeting, we did a scavenger hunt, and someone literally typed up like different things, like, for example, a scout is trustworthy. This means you're honest and can be relied on. For example, if your neighbor went on vacation, you could be trusted with their spare key. Find me a key. And the kids would run and race to be the first one to bring back a key. The kids loved it. It was such a hit. And there was different, like each different part had a different quote and a different thing to go find. We, as a group, use Google Classroom, and then Google Meet ties into Google Classroom. So I tweak some PowerPoints essentially to kind of run my lesson. I start out with just a game, just as people are kind of logging in, kill some of that time. And then we do some of the lesson. I find a video or another game or something like that. And then I just work off the slideshow. And then all the kids can see the slideshow if they missed the meeting. And then they can record their attendance in Google Classroom. So far it's worked good.
Good. Yeah, and I think the key thing with is Ashley didn't reinvent the wheel. She went out and figured out what everybody else was doing and then just made it work. Ashley, I can't remember. I know we talked about this. Do they, on those Facebook groups, do they break things down like by adventure or anything, or do you just got to kind of search through it, kind of thing to find what you're looking for? How do you navigate that, I guess?
So a lot of it is just searching through it. A lot of it essentially is someone will post a question or a comment, and people are very helpful at chiming in and being like, hey, this is how we did it, or this is a good idea, kind of thing. And it just pops up in my news feed a lot, and I just kind of go, oh yeah, that would be great to incorporate in. If I'm looking for something specific, there is a search box that you can type in maybe a key phrase or something, but it's not super organized. There is a file section that you can find handouts and word searches and different, someone maybe has made a PowerPoint that you could, kind of tweak to your liking. But that file section also is kind of a hodgepodge mess. You just kind of got to search through, but everybody's pretty good about labeling really nicely. So it works.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so definitely there's lots of resources and tools out there. I think the biggest challenge some units have is just getting started. So, we have about 15 minutes left here, and again, you can still continue to ask questions, throw out ideas you have. But myself, Liz, and Alex, we certainly want to thank you for joining us. I guess, for those that have not gone virtual yet or need some more hands-on help, whether it's running the technology, just needing help just getting started, we're more than happy to work with you on a pack-by-pack basis, a den-by-den basis, to help you get going. I think once you get going, it things start clicking a little bit, but sometimes just that initial getting going is tough. And I do understand. I've talked to several families that said our kids are on the computer, 5, 6, 7 hours a day doing school stuff. As we really want them online doing scouting stuff too. And my thing is it's better than nothing. What else are they going to do? Sit and watch TV or maybe go outside and play, which is great, but here's a way they can interact socially with their peers, not feel like it's schoolwork again, but again, it's better than nothing. And again, it may not be an hour-long meeting like you normally would. It may just be 20 or 30 minutes. But again, something is better than nothing. This will end. It's just a matter of when. So again, I encourage you to start meeting virtually if you haven't already. And again, if you need some more hands-on guidance, I've already helped several units just, develop meeting plans. I've helped facilitate meetings, whatever it is you need. If you just need a sounding board to bounce ideas off, Liz, Alex, and I are definitely more than happy to help. We'll also type our contact information in the chat so everybody's got it in case you don't already have it. But again, if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, or if you want to know more about the technology, again, we're on for another few minutes, and then we got to start the Scouts BSA presentation at 7:30. So. Okay. Well, again, we'll stick on here if you want to chime in at all. Otherwise, as soon as give us probably till the end of the week we'll take this recording. We'll throw it up online along with all the resources that we've talked about and a few others, and incorporate some of the things you've shared as well. So again, thanks everybody for coming, and have a great night. And if you need anything, we're here.
Great, so I'm just going to put in a shameless plug to the units that might be struggling with some of this. I believe every district and neighborhood now has a trainer. We've been working exceptionally hard at helping the DEs get some of this stuff together, touching base with units as well, with what works, what doesn't work. Definitely feel free to pick our brains and utilize this as well. That's why we're here. We're here to help you guys run successful programs as well. So don't be afraid to reach out. And if you don't know who your trainer is, definitely ask the DEs, and they'll hook you up with one of us. So
Both of mine are here.
that's because we're awesome. And even if we're not maybe specifically your district or your neighborhood trainer, still don't hesitate to reach out. I've definitely helped individuals well outside of my areas, and have been more than happy to answer questions as it relates to YPT questions or training questions or position specific stuff. So don't be afraid to reach out, even if we may not be your neighborhood or your direct representative. So
We can help put you in contact with, another Cub Master or Den leader that might be doing the same thing. We can share efforts, just like you can use anything that's been posted. We can share efforts too. There's nothing against the rules about, sharing a Tiger Den meeting or, whatever. We can all work together.
Sounds good. Well, everybody have a good night, and I'm sure we'll see you soon.